Welcome back to our C Sharp beginner tutorial. In the previous class, I believe we looked at, let me see if I can find it. I believe we gave a brief explanation or a brief introduction to properties. Um, and we said, let me bring up Visual Studio. And we said properties are supposed to be used in place of private fields and their accessor method. So for example, this private field first name has two accessor methods, one for getting the value stored inside the first name private variable. That's the get first name accessor method. And then the second accessor method is the one for setting the value of that particular private variable, which is set first name. So each private field has two accessor methods. Okay, well, not necessarily. Like I explained, I think in the previous class, there are some cases whereby you don't need the private variable to probably be able to be set from outside the class. In that case, you will not create a set accessor for it. Okay, and if you don't want the private variable to be able, if you don't want an external class to be able to get that to retrieve the value stored inside the private first name, you simply do not create the public get first name accessor. Okay, so it all depends on your the structure of your own program or what you like. Okay, it's nothing cast in stone. All these things I've been saying, they are conventions. Okay, they're just like they give you like they give you a, how do I put it, they give you good practice. Okay, good programming practice. Okay, that's the way most people use them, and they've been proven to be the best way to write code. Okay, so whenever you hear me say so is a good convention, programming convention, it just means that the general public, the general programming public accepts that that is the standard or good way to go about writing code. Okay, it doesn't mean that you have to do it that way. No, it just means that if you do it this way, you expect to get good results based on what so many people have done before. Okay, so today, like I said, we're going to see how we create properties. Okay, so for this first name private variable, we're going to create a property in place of it. Okay, that means that property is going to take the whole function of one, this private first name variable, and then also it's going to allow us to be able to get the first name from an external class, and also to be able to set the first name from an external class. Okay, that's the whole point of a property. Okay, so let's see how we do that. So to create a property, first I'm going to remove this private string first name. Okay, notice how we do it. You make sure you don't have any private string first name, that you don't have any field with that name. Instead, what you do is you just go ahead and declare it as public. Okay, notice the way I'm declaring it. I write public. Now the next thing you do is you do not set the data type. Do you set the data? I can't remember. Let's see. String, I'm not sure. Let's just test it out and see. Public string first name, and notice I am starting the first name with a capital F. Okay, now this is just the convention that .NET uses. Okay, you can decide to use the way we've been writing normal variables or normal fields, that's starting the F with a small f. In fact, I do prefer that, but the normal convention used by .NET is that for properties they use capital, they start them with a capital letter. So I'm just using .NET property, .NET convention here. So I'm going to call it first name, okay? And then notice, okay, yeah, I think you do have to provide the data type. I just remember you have to provide the data type. Otherwise, how does it know what data is going to be stored in? Okay, so remember, you start with public string first name. Now this is where the difference comes in. Okay, notice if you're declaring a normal field, at this point you just put your semicolon and that's it. But with properties, at this point you have to open a curly bracket. Notice that is now looking as if it is a method. Okay, even though methods usually have, what differentiates this from a method is that method usually have open normal bracket and close normal bracket here just before the open curly bracket. Okay, also another thing, I prefer to always keep my curly brackets on the next line. Okay, so I'm going to shift them to the next line, and I'm going to use tab to bring it to adjust it just at the same column with the public. And I'm going to also put this second curly bracket on the next line. Okay, this is how I like just like a method, the way we create a method. Okay, the only difference with a method is that a method usually has the normal brackets here, don't forget. Okay, so this is how you create a property. Not yet, we're not done. Now by doing this, you've created, or you've set the tone for it. You have to, there is what we call the get and set methods. So for the get, you go ahead and just write get small get. Okay, notice the difference between the way we created the get first name here. We had to write the get first name fully. In fact, this is just a normal method. Okay, for this for the property, you just write a get. Okay, and you do not use the normal brackets. You just open another curly bracket. Okay, and close the curly bracket. Okay, now this is for the get. After the closing curly bracket for the get, you put a semicolon. Okay, I'm not, is this right? Not all code. Okay, because we're getting okay, sorry, I think I missed that out. We're not going to use the curly brackets. Actually, the semicolon comes immediately after the get. Okay, so when you open your curly bracket, you write the get, put your semicolon, and you close the curly bracket. Okay, now if you leave this property like this, it means that you will be able to get the value stored by the private, even though you did not create a private first name field here. This property is going to create it for you, okay, internally. Okay, you're not going to see it because you did not write the property. Okay, you did not write the private field. However, I want you to know that there is a private field that will be generated by you creating this property. Okay, now back to our discussion. The get, because you just specify the get value, it means that that internal private field that is created is, you will be able to get the value. Okay, you'll be able to get the value of that private field from an external class. Okay, however, you will not be able to set the value of that private field, first name field. Okay, that's created. Now, for you to be able to set the value, you have to specify the set method also, and then use a semicolon. Okay, now this get and this set, I know I'm saying method, but they do not look like they don't look like methods, do they? They don't at all, because methods usually have brackets. Okay, however, I want you to know that these are actually methods. These get and set. I know they might be very, very confusing, because myself, I get confused by the way the get and set methods get written. Like if I want to code out the get method and the set method, I always forget and I always get confused. Okay, now if you're creating just that's a basic method that just allows you to get the value of the private first name field, and also to allow you to be able to set the value of the private first name field, this is sufficient. Okay, however, if you want to write some extra code, like whenever get is called, that get, remember I said this is a method, even though it doesn't look like a method, this is the way you create it. Okay, it doesn't look like a method. If you want to write extra code now, that is going to take a whole another different uh, a whole different setup when you're creating the property. Okay, so for now we're just going to create this basic property that allows you to get the value of the private first name and to be able to set the value of the private first name field. Okay, okay, back to our code now. Notice that because we have eliminated that first name that starts with a small f, okay, all in our code, wherever we use first name, of course it's complaining that the name first name does not exist. Okay, so in our code we have to change, okay, we have to change this first name to capital F first name. Now notice the way we're using this first name now. Okay, right now we're doing it within the class, within the employee class, so it doesn't really make any difference. So let's just go ahead and do this. I will take us back to the external class, that's the program class, where we use first name, and you'll see what I'm trying to explain. Okay, for this get first name and set first name, we're going to eliminate these two methods. Okay, they're no longer useful. I'll just remove them. Okay, and then I've saved it by going to file, save all, even though I used Control S to quickly save the file. Now let's go back to program.cs. Okay, now notice this our set first name is complaining because the method does not exist, right? Now notice what happens if I remove this. Okay, I'll leave the Abdul because we want to set it to Abdul, so I'll just remove that. In fact, let me just remove everything. Okay, we know it's Abdul we want to set it to. So if I write employee one dot, now notice the options I'm getting. Do you see the first name we're seeing here? Can you spot a difference between this first name and the earlier one that we created? That okay, the first one we created was a public field. Okay, if you remember, the public field did not have this spanner, this spanner icon. What it actually had was something like a blue box. Okay, that's if it's a public field. Now when we remove the public field and we made it a method, we had get first name and set first name. So for employee one, we use set first name, which was something like this. Yes, this type of icon. Okay, now notice because we removed the get first name and set first name methods, they are no longer available in the list of the members of employee one. Okay, however, what we get is this this property. Notice the icon is a spanner. This spanner is telling you that this is a property. Visual Studio recognizes this first name as a property. Okay, and the way properties are used, you do not use properties the way you use methods. Okay, you use properties the way you use fields. Okay, remember the way we use first name field when it was a public field. We said employee one dot first name. However, now we're going to use a capital F because the property is using a capital F. Okay, So first name is equal to, okay, we're not using the brackets because it's not a method. Remember, it's a property now, and this is how you set properties. Okay, is equal to, you open the quotation mark and you put Abdul inside. Okay, and you close, you end it with a semicolon. Okay, so this is how we have created this. We've changed this first name from from a private variable with that has public accessors, that's a public get method and a public set method. We've eliminated the private field. We've gotten rid of the public get accessor. We've gotten rid of the set accessor, and we used a single property, this first name. And with that single property, we are able to, first of all, what I want you to know is that that property actually hides that, it creates a field, a private field, but it does not allow you to tamper with the private field that it created. Okay, so I think, to me, properties are much, they give you much better protection than private fields. Okay, because the reason why I say that, I know it sounds weird because I mean, private fields, you can't even access them at all. Okay, the reason I say that is because, you see, even with this first name property, there is actually a private field, but that private field, you can never ever tamper with it, even within the class. Okay, you cannot directly access that private field. Okay, now that is why I say properties actually give you better protection to your private fields. Okay, you cannot directly access. Notice here we are trying to access, we want to use a first name, but we don't even have the ability to tamper with the actual private field. Okay, what we're calling here is first name, which is the property. Okay, we're still using the property here, just as we're using the public property outside the class. So whether we are within the class or outside the employee class, we can only access the property. Okay, and the private field is well protected. Okay, I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but for now, what you should take away as a beginner is that we have eliminated that private field first name, that first name field, and we have also eliminated the two get first name and set first name, and we have substituted those three items with only this property. Okay, and we are able to access the property from outside the class. At the same time, we are able to access the property from within the class, just as we did here and just as we did here. Okay, now we're going to do the same for all the other variables. That's the middle name, the last name, the ID number, the gender, and the age. Okay, we're going to do the same. I think I should probably pause this video and just go ahead and type it out. Okay, and then after the typing, I bring it back. Just to let you know, okay, before I pause, let me just show you everything we're going to remove. So we're going to take out all these public string, get middle name, set middle name, get last name, set last name, get ID number, set ID number, get gender, set gender, get age, set age. We're going to remove everything, delete, backspace actually. I use backspace there. So I've removed them all. We don't need them. Notice how much code we've eliminated by using a property. Okay, that's that's another advantage of a property. What's this? Remind me tomorrow, and tomorrow I'll say remind me next tomorrow. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and I'll just pause this video and create the properties. Okay, I'm going to create them here and eliminate these guys. Okay, welcome back. I've been able to type out these are the properties I've created. So I've eliminated the private fields that we created and I've changed them to properties. Okay. Also remember that we got rid of all the accessors, that's the get and set methods for each of the private variables. Okay. Next, what we're going to do is remember here we were trying to use the private variables within the class. So we're going to change that to the properties, and the difference is just the capital letter at the beginning. Remember, for the properties I started them with capital letters. So we're going to change that middle name to a capital M, last name to a capital L, gender to a capital G, ID number to a capital I, age to a capital A. Same here. Last name, ID number, gender, and finally age. Another thing I would like you to notice, okay, we're not done yet. We have to change these also. Middle name, last name, capital L, capital I. So notice everywhere within our program, whether we're within the class or outside the class, we are only able to access that private field via the property. Okay, that's via these properties. Okay, like I told you before, the private field, there is actually a private field, but you can't even access it. Okay, it is created by the, should I say the compiler? Yeah, I believe it's by the compiler. Okay, so it's created by the compiler in runtime. I believe so. I'm not sure, but I think so. So you're not able to access the private variable yourself, even when you're within the class. Okay, you could only access the private variable via this property, this public property. Okay, and I also said that the public property is actually a method, but you use it as if the way you normally use variables. Okay, so let's go back to our employee class. Before we do that, the program class, before we do that, let's save file, save all. Let's go back to the program class, and we're going to get rid of all these set middle name. Instead, we're going to use employee1 dot middle name equal. Remember, we're not using it like a method. We use it as if it's a variable. That's how properties are used. We're going to get rid of the set, and also it should be equal. Yeah, I think I should probably pause and just to cut off the most of the time. Okay, so I'm done changing the way we access the variables. Okay, here we're using the properties. So dot middle name equals this, dot last name equals this, dot ID number equals this. Okay, so that is how. Okay, by the way, we didn't run this program. Let's just save all, file, save all, and run the program. There shouldn't be any difference with the way it was working before. So yeah, it's still functioning as expected. Okay, so that's the details for that employee. That's the one for the next employee, and so on. Okay, so the program, as you saw, works just as before. Okay, the only difference is we've gotten rid of a lot of code. Okay, by using properties, we were able to, instead of creating a private field and then creating getter and setter for each private field that we created, we got rid of all those getters and setters, and instead we use properties. And this is how we created our properties. So this is the first name property, the middle name property, the last name property, and so on. And by doing that, it may we had to alter the way we access the property. So instead of using employee1.set first name and using a bracket passing the Abdul as a parameter to the method, instead this is how you actually set properties. Okay, so you say employee1.first name equals, and then you pass your you give your your data. Okay, and since it's a string, the first name is a string, so it takes a string. For this, the age is an int, so it expects an int. Okay, if you try to pass a string here, it won't work. Okay, it will give you an error. Okay, so that's what properties are, and that's actually what they are used for. I think we should end this class here, and I'll see you in the next class.